one for them. Everything else would build around that. But I think they're really, really against going to 5 years. If somebody else does, that's going to test their resolve. I think in a perfect world, Chris, they'd get him for 3 years, 60 million, something north of that. But I think it's going to take more than that. This guy is really desired. I know for a fact that the Blue Jays are going hard after him, and the Mets probably have some interest as well. So that might push the Yankees to a limit where they don't want to go. But I don't believe in any kind of a player where you sign him no matter what. I think the Yankees will have their limits. Hal Steinbrenner was on my radio show at the end of the playoffs for the Yankees, and he said the Yankees lost more money than any team in baseball because of the 60-game season and no fans in the stands. So I don't think the Yankees are going to go hog wild when it comes to payroll.
All right, good one. Number 2, Tanaka. Will they bring him back?
I think they'd like to. They certainly have to fill some spots there in the rotation. But he's a interesting case because, remember, from the first year that he signed with the Yankees, he's been dealing with the partially torn UCL. Do you want to give a guy like that who's a ticking time bomb a multi-year contract? Somebody out there might. He made $23 million last year. I don't think he's going to get that. If the Yankees could get him for 10 or 11, I think they'd love him. They love what he's made of. They love what he's about. But, Chris, when you see Drew Smyly got $11 million from the Atlanta Braves, I think pitching is at a premium right now. And anybody that could throw a baseball and do it, in a legitimate way like Tanaka, he might get more than people are thinking he's going to get.
All right, so maybe not so much him. Sanchez is obviously always an interesting question. I think, Mike, they give him 1 more year to find himself. You would know better than me. What's the status with him right now as the Yankee catcher?
I think we're going to know a lot on December 2nd, whether or not they offer him arbitration. He had an awful year last year, just awful. He hit 143. You just can't do that. He struck out about 40% of the time, didn't have a great time behind the plate either. So if he goes to arbitration, they offer him arbitration, even having numbers like that, he's still going to get a raise from $5 to $6 million. So if they offer him arbitration, I think he stays. If they trade him, obviously, then he would go somewhere else. I think their biggest fear would be simply not offering arbitration, and all of a sudden he becomes a free agent, and then he could come back to haunt you. Let's say the Tampa Bay Rays want to take a chance that they could fix him. Well, that would be an awfully tough thing to see, 19 times a year for the next couple of years. The Yankees, I think, have always believed in him, but there was certainly a wavering there, Chris, because if you look at the 5 games against the Tampa Bay Rays, he started 1 of them, and in the last game, the game that decided whether or not the Yankee season would go on, he didn't get an at-bat, and he did not catch their ace pitcher. That went to Kyle Higashioka. So if Garrett Cole's not going to pitch to your number 1 catcher, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, very good. So it sounds like maybe not. Would they want to get Torres off shortstop? Is that going to be an off-season goal, or you think they can live with it? What's your take there?
I think they could live with it. I think they do have to really improve their defense, Chris. Up the middle, it was not very good. The catcher wasn't good. Gleyber Torres did not have a great season. He's a better second baseman. So I think you put it the best. They could live with it, but in a perfect world, they probably shift him to second. And even if they sign LeMahieu, well, he can play many positions. He can play third. He can play second. He can play first. But he's going to be in the lineup every single day. If they put him at first base, then that opens up the possibility that you could actually make a trade involving Luke Voigt. I wouldn't want to do that. The guy led the majors in home runs, but he is a valuable asset that they have, and they do need some young pitching.
All right, Lindor, you think they'll check in, or you think they're just not going to? They have the pieces from a mind. They can trade some guys. They can get Andujar. They can figure something out. Maybe Frazier if they had to. They have some pieces that would entice the Indians. Would the Yankees think about Lindor, move Torres to second, and then, that would be obviously if LeMahieu went somewhere else. The Yankees could do that with Lindor. They could check in once they find out about LeMahieu, correct?
Absolutely. I think everything plays off LeMahieu for sure. But the bottom line is, of course, they're going to check in on Lindor. But the Indians might have overplayed their hand just a little bit, Chris, because what kind of market is it going to be for a guy who's 1 year away from free agent? He's a great player, switch hitter, dynamic, good defender. He does everything well. But just consider this. Next year, the next offseason, Seager's going to be a free agent. Correa is going to be a free agent. Story's going to be a free agent, and Lindor's going to be a free agent, and you will not have to give up all of your assets to get any of them. All you have to give up is money. So the team that trade for Lindor is going to have to decide, do we want to give up these assets when we could wait a year and get it just for money?
Interesting. All right, Chapman. I mean, they got to go with him. They're going to have to. He's on the team again. Do you think the last 2 years with the home runs has enabled them to lose a little confidence, and maybe they go to Britain? What's your take on how they feel about Chapman after the home run in Game 5 against Tampa?
Well, I think they believe in him, Chris, but I have this wacky theory. I'll throw at you. I don't know if you'll buy it, but this guy came up as a starter. The Yankees are shorter on starters. So what he makes is a lot for a reliever, but it's not for a starter. If you transition him to a starter, you have a guy who is an outstanding closer in Britain. He signed for the next 2 years. This way, the thing that made Chapman special as a reliever is he threw 105 miles an hour. No one did that. He doesn't throw 105 miles an hour anymore. He throws 99 to 101. You know what? Everybody does that. So the specialness as a reliever is gone. He's got a lot of pitches. He controls those pitches. He went to a changeup a lot this year. He's got that slider and that fastball. I think that plays as the starter, and that would solve one of their problems. And that's just from my head. Nobody else's. I think that would solve a couple of problems, but you'd have to add some bullpen help as well because they've lost Tommy Kahnle with the Tommy John injury. And if you move Britton up, then everybody else has to move up as well. But I think that would be a cheaper alternative to go out rather than go out and get a big